We're going to do a little competition though and see which hole has the most rock. This is hole number 1. Right now I need to map this bed out a little bit. Got a few things going on. I'm going to grow some cucumbers and maybe a summer squash. Summer squash going here. I'm going to train it to go up a post. And the cucumbers, I'm going to have them vine on these old crib mattresses that we saved. And I stake those into the ground just to help keep them from blowing around. But anyway, this is gonna go right here ultimately. Draw a line, give me an idea where that's gonna be. Again, I'll have the stakes right here going up where I'm gonna train that summer squash. I can't decide if I'm gonna do the zucchini or if I'm gonna do the crookneck squash. That'll be right here. I've never done them vertically, but quite a few videos on how to do them vertically. I'm gonna follow some of those examples and hope for the best. So I know I want one of the sunflowers to be centered on this walkway between these 2 raised beds. So we're gonna mark this as one of the spots. And I plan on doing probably a 2-foot diameter hole of soil amendment. So that'll be about right there. And then what I like to do for measuring things, I use a shovel. If it's a bigger space, I'll use a longer handle shovel. I don't like getting tape measures out, getting them all dirty, and then they end up wearing out and don't wind up correctly. So this looks close to the middle. I'm gonna kind of see the stick this way. And that gives me about, if I go straight to there, where my mark was, there's about a 5-inch space. So I know if I go to the middle of that 5-inch space, which I can easily eyeball, then I'm there. Get another stick for my marker. Stick that there. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. But I want to keep them equally spaced, and I'm going to have another flower over here. So I'm not necessarily going to put it as close to this edge as that one is to that edge, but it's going to be close. So there's middle. Yeah, it's going to be actually a little bit closer to this edge than I wanted. So I went about 2.5 inches in that way, or 5 inches, so I'll go about 2.5 inches in here, and that would be where I would put that sunflower. That's going to be equally spaced between these 3. And I think that'll be good. This area gets about 9 hours of sun in the peak of summer. That'll be really good for sunflowers. And it also gets about 2 hours in the morning as the sun comes up over here. And then it goes behind my house for a little bit, so it'll get a fair amount of sun. Hopefully the sunflowers can really grow. And in front of the sunflowers, I'm going to have some border plants and some bedding plants to just really make this area look a lot better. I'm going to have lots of tall plants as well, delphiniums and foxglove, things like that are just really going to grow tall to get that effect I was talking about. Walking in on this path, not being able to see much of the yard, being distracted by everything that's right here, and then you'll walk around the corner and see the rest of the yard. I think it'll be fun, and now time to bring on the pain. I'm going to be digging the holes for these sunflowers to amend the soil, get a lot of good nutrition in there, and the amount of rock I have in this soil, you'll see. I typically have to bring in soil because after I take out all the rock, I run out of backfill. Just realizing that it's going to be a little bit too close to this cucumber trellis. So I'm going to scoot it down, I think. We're going to go with about that green part of that sticker on this shovel and move them down to there. That should still give me some room to plant delphiniums and some bedding plants. Follow the curve a little bit. Okay, that's where I'm going to dig the holes. Got my wheelbarrow over here to throw all the rocks in because that's just the way it is. Got a pickaxe. Both of these have seen better days, but they still work. Ever know a gardener with back problems? Seems like it should be a different hobby. The show must go on. And this is how I got all the gravel for the rest of my yard. This layer. Got some composted steer manure blend and some poultry blend compost. And mix in there with some of this native soil. I don't want to do straight compost because plants need minerals and stuff that's not in compost. So it's also good to have native soil in there so the plants can be used to the rest of the dirt, in theory. There's a concept of not amending your soil. It used to be when you're planting trees that everyone would say dig it twice as deep and twice as wide, and then mix the compost 50-50 with your native soil. But some people say when you do that, it's like basically making a pot in the ground. The trees will supposedly be so used to the easy compost 50-50 mix that when they get to the native soil, or in my case, native rock, the roots stop, turn, and start to do the root bound thing. But I planted, I don't know how many trees, and I've never had one be sick or die that I pulled back out and was totally root bound. In my experience, they do find a way. But the proponents for not mixing 50-50 say just dig a hole big enough for the tree's root ball, kind of tease the roots out of the root ball so they're not root bound if they were, and let it start trying to get through that tough dirt right from the beginning. But I'm going to do the 50-50. Try to get out the rocks as much as I can. It's a project, an ongoing project in this yard. Anytime I plant something, I remove the rocks. Someday, my great grandkids might be able to experience this yard without rocks. Now, the poultry mix is a little bit stronger of a mix, so I use that to top dress and let it leach down in. I don't want the roots for the sunflower going directly in that. Good thing about having this much gravel is when I finished my backyard, we had to remove 84 dump truck loads of dirt, and found a gravel company that deemed my dirt rocky enough that they wanted it, so they could easily sift out the rocks and use it for gravel. Kind of absurd. Saved me a couple $1,000s, so I thought it was awesome. Absurd in the fact that I have that much gravel, that much rock in my soil, or dirt. Now it's going to be soil though, with these amendments and with some plants growing in it finally, instead of grass. I'm going to have some soil yet, at least in 3 holes. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Fill the hole, take out the gravel, only half as full as it was. Once I get the sunflowers in here, I'm going to direct seed some, and I have some that are already started in some pots. Once I get them in there, I will feed them with a liquid kelp fertilizer, and I'll feed them with a fish fertilizer. I'll do that weekly since I'm really trying to make these ones big. I want you to take note of the size of that pile of rock from one hole. Yes, I'm complaining. More of this, and I'll top it off with chicken manure blend, the poultry blend. I think what they called it. All right, that's how I prep for big sunflowers. Next hole. I'm going to stop the video now, and I'll show you when I'm all done with these. We're going to do a little competition though and see which hole has the most rock. This is hole number 1. Pile it up. Be a subjective measurement. I'll just see which looks biggest. Well, first of all, I decided to put the poultry mix compost on top. Let the microbiology start to get to work on that. I'm going to say the first pile right there that you saw me dig, it's pretty close to the second pile. But I think Overall, I'm gonna give it to the first pile. And that last pile is smaller than both of them for sure, but it got into this stuff that looked like pea gravel. You can see I spread it around a little bit. But we're gonna say, at least I'm gonna say, first pile wins. That's the most rocks in that first hole. Now I mentioned 84 dump truck loads. So that hill that I have those two terraces on used to come all the way down to basically where the edge of the grass is that you can see going along there. I had to have front loader, an excavator, and 2 dump trucks going around each other, around and around, and it was 84 total. And I can't remember how many needed to be pulled out for digging the foundation out, but yeah, in the end I like it because our yard has some depth and some height to it instead of just being a flat yard, which is very common here, but it was a lot of work and it was a lot of money.